Hello. Hey, hi, hello. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Jess. I'm a little dusty today, mind your business. We are here to talk about yesteryear. However, I brought some beverages with me. One that I've never tried before, and I figured I would try it here with y'all. This is a raspberry lemonade Crystal Lay, classic, water. You know I love a 3-bev moment. Now, the one I'm gonna be trying with y'all, I brought a wine glass with some ice. This is Spezi? I can't remember how they said it. Anyway, I've been taking introductory German lessons, and our instructor, we did like a little field trip. We went to we met at a grocery store to do like vocab and talk about different things between American and German grocery stores. And so she was like, ooh, this is good, ooh, this is good. Now, she said this, which this is basically a mix of Coke and Fanta. Like, obviously not Coca-Cola and orange Fanta, but it's basically a cola and an orange soda mix that apparently they like to drink. I feel like this is gonna be ass, but I'm gonna try it with y'all. So I got this little can, and I'm gonna put over some ice, and we gonna talk. Like, what color is this even supposed to be? Oh, it looks foul. Okay. I usually keep these little food and drink samples to Patreon, but today you get to experience. That is not as terrible as I thought it would be. Hold up now. It really is just like Coke with some orange, which I think they make a Coke, an orange Coke flavor, which I've never tried. Bitch, hold up, let me see. Wow, well, color me shocked and surprised. I can't wait to tell her. I'm like, girl, I tried it. And I actually, wow. Okay, well, I wish I was alcoholic, but it's not. So yesteryear. I just finished this book. No, literally maybe an hour ago, I finished this book, and I'm gonna go ahead and tell you. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was really great. I listened to the audiobook and I had a good time. Then I was going to look at Goodreads because I like to just look at people's reviews because there's some, not ambiguous, but I just wanted to see some people's thoughts on the ending and like part of the later part of the book. And so then I kept seeing like some 1-star reviews, which again, valid, 1 star to 5 star, all valid. But the ones I read were very like butthurt. They were like, oh, this is such a dishonest depiction of Christianity. And that made me laugh. So anyway, I just found that hilarious, and I was like, I'm gonna give you my thoughts on the book and then read through some of the 1-star reviews, because why not have a laugh together while I enjoy this surprisingly tasty beverage. I am shocked. Now I need to try a Coke Orange and see if it tastes exactly the same or different. Now, yesteryear. I only heard about this book the last couple weeks. I can't remember. I know I saw it come up on TikTok. Did Chelsea Fagan? Somebody who I was like, ooh, read it. And then I saw a little blurb about what it was about. Basically like a ballerina farm-esque influencer. So like a Christian influencer who is like married, has a bunch of children, decides to buy a homestead and is an influencer. And she wakes up one day and she's like transported to like the 1800s. You know, kind of the life that she's mimicking in present day. And I was like, ooh, that sounds interesting. So again, I got the audio from my library. Apparently this has already been optioned for a movie, and I think, did it say Anne Hathaway is like supposed to be in the movie? I'll have to look that up. So anyway, I thought it was a good time. I don't think, was it a little long? I mean, I always say a book could be trimmed, but I thought the audio book was really good. The book was both, I think overall the pacing was done well. I liked the writing, it was really sharp. There was like some really dark humor in it, but things that are also just very on point, very topical, especially with people like Nara Smith and Ballerina Farm being such large influencers. And with the rise of Christian nationalism in the United States. So it was like very on par with those things, but I think I really liked the writing and the dark humor that was in it. And I really liked how the story played out. So she comes from decent enough background. She goes to Harvard. She's like grown up Christian, and it reminds me, it's not like Dominion, but it reminds me of Dominion, because in Dominion we were getting the thoughts of this pastor's wife, and her, supposed to be in this position, and she is how judgmental she is to the people of the congregation and people in her life. And you're getting that too with this woman. She is just like, but since we're in her perspective, she's like saying something like, "You fucking bitch. Sorry, Lord." And so it felt like this is probably what these people are doing. She goes to Harvard, meets a man, and they have a few dates and they're engaged, get married. Like, obviously, I haven't followed the entire story of Ballerina Farm. It's not like word for word. This person didn't go to Juilliard, blah, 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 but it's very similar to that. And I'm sure there's other Christian influencers like this. But she goes to Harvard, gets married, ends up dropping out, gets pregnant. And it's so... oh God, her inner monologue, because she just thinks she's so high and mighty. She's doing everything right. She's the right kind of woman. She is going to create this perfect life. And so she marries him. He's very well-to-do. His father's in politics. And of course, they end up on this farm. But it's hilarious because they're terrible at farming. Neither of them have experience. And so like their farm animals keep dying. They're not making any money, but they just keep getting money from her father-in-law, and she's popping out children. But then she has her first child, and she doesn't have this motherly instinct. It also touches really on like some postpartum depression, and how she hides that, how her like mother-in-law and her mother try to guide her through that. There was a quote, hold on. There was a quote from the book that I had to replay a bunch of times so I could type it out because it was so good. Let me read it. "I think of my mother sitting at the edge of the hospital bed when I was 20 years old. Soon you'll feel like yourself again. Young. I was so young then. Young enough to think my mother was telling me the truth. But she was pretending, wasn't she? Always pretending. Though I don't blame her for it. Or for waiting until just the right moment to let me in on the secret. It's all some vital game, isn't it? No, more than a game. It's a long golden string of insincerity that threads together the entire human race. A shared agreement between women to insist back and forth in endless conversation that this thing we spend our whole lives preparing for, this thing we were born for, is anywhere close to what we thought it would be. And do you know the truth beneath that secret? The water beneath the ice? It never stops. You never age out of it. Your mother lies to you, and then you lie to your children, and then your children lie to their children, and then you are an old woman looking back at your own life, lying to yourself. A lifetime of drowning, and then you are dead." So again, all of this is very topical, especially amongst, I won't call it a movement, but more women having a term to align with, child-free, or women deciding that motherhood is not for them. And obviously I'm gonna add the to be clear, motherhood is not like this for everybody. Some people don't have problems in pregnancy, don't experience postpartum, just generally enjoy motherhood. But that's not everyone's truth. And luckily with social media platforms, especially like TikTok, and more women are sharing their truth so that women going forward can actually make informed decisions about whether they want to have children, or at least, biologically have children instead of like adopting or fostering or whatever. That quote, I was like, whoo. So it's crazy. But then one day she wakes up in like the 1800s. And so this whole time I'm trying to figure out, oh my God, did we time travel? Is this some like weird, she thinks she's on some kind of like reality show. And it's just really crazy the way she is, because basically in this 1800s, she's not in charge. And she has to listen to a man. And she's like, I don't belong here. And it is just so, it was really good. It was really good and really entertaining to read and see how it developed. The conversation about filming her children, how her children reacted to that, the people that she hired coming in to help her, because of course her social media made it seem like she did this all by herself, running a farm and taking care of all of these children and blah, 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 when she had nannies and tutors and ranch hands and all of these things. And so I won't go into like the fully like what happened at the end. But I just think it was really good. Because of course it's looking at Christianity and what people who really especially want to be in that traditional, follow Christianity in the traditional sense of, you know, the wife's place is at home and to raise children and the man is to go out into the workforce. But it's so funny in the book because she is the one working. He's the son of wealthy parents, so he doesn't have to. And so she's going through that with what she thought a man and a provider would be, but then she's the one making all this money and doing all this work with like the social media. So I think it was really good. I think it's worth the read. But let's go into some of these comments or reviews so we can have a little giggle. First, I'm gonna Google the author really quick. Carol Claire Burke. I don't know her. Is this her debut? Oh, she's got a podcast. Carol Claire Burke is a novelist and co-host of Diabolical Lies, a culture and politics podcast. Yesteryear is her first book. Okay. Like, I'm trying to look up if she grew up in Christian fundamentalism or Mormonism. Wait, is this the girl that I used to follow on TikTok? Hold up. Is this girl from TikTok? Oh my God. It is. It is her. Wow. I gotta change this battery. I did not know that was her. Okay. But I still don't remember. I feel like she grew up in religion, but okay. So I couldn't find, I don't know. There's a lot of interviews, but I'm not seeing anything about her religious upbringing. So if I can find that while I edit it, then I'll add it in here. But I can't believe I just realized that, so some of these are long. So if they are really long, I may skim over them, but I will put them here. I won't put the person's name, but this is this should go without saying that don't go under people's reviews and like, you know, leave them harassing comments, whatever. They're silly. I'm having fun. So, arc read, gross. This book was gross. It is very obvious that this book will be a buzzy spring release according to online chatter. However, I'm confidently DNFing at 15%, as I cannot get past the misquoted scripture, painful and inaccurate representation of Christianity. What actually was the faith of the main character? Mormon, Christian? The author didn't put enough effort for research into clarifying, and the trivial tone towards mental health. The time travel element is also a tired trope. I could tell early on that it was all headed in a direction that's not for me. Okay, girl. You got 15% in. It said, I wish they would include, because obviously I'm no biblical scholar, but what was so inaccurate about the scripture? I would love to know. I normally do try to read through arcs even when I'm not a fan, but this book, I haven't snarled so much while reading a book like this in a while. Was she like, rah? Like, what's a snarl? Like, was she just reading it like, rah? Is that a growl? I don't know. I had no qualms DNFing after reading too much of it. It is under-researched in many ways. Okay. Completely lacking in depth. It's false in its premise on many levels. Scripture taken out of context. Blasphemy throughout. I wouldn't even recommend this book to my enemies. Not that I have any. You got one now. Clearly, I am not the target audience for this one. Obviously. I just love it. Blasphemy. Scripture taken out of context. Okay, even when y'all take scripture out of okay, I'm not doing it with y'all because y'all be like, no, well, it doesn't mean it like that. It technically means it like this. Someone said, almost picked it up as my book of the month, but absolutely will not read anything blasphemous or with making fun of faith as a punchline. What a hateful book. The author was like, I'm gonna write the most cartoonishly unlikable caricature of a Christian trad wife. I'm gonna dehumanize her, then I'm gonna punish her with an abusive husband and severe trauma, and the audience will cheer because they hate her so much. The author was like, I'm so feminist, I'm gonna make other feminists cheer for a domestic abuser beating his wife. No, you're not feminist, you just hate women, and you empower other women hating women to cheer for their internalized misogyny. You convince everyone the victim was asking for it. Your rhetoric is hateful, misogynistic, and actively harms victims of domestic violence. I don't think you understand. Okay, it's not, okay. Someone said, I picked it up expecting a thought-provoking story. The book's summary sounded so good. Unfortunately, the summary was better than any part of the actual book. What I got was a novel that feels less like fiction and more like a long lecture. The premise had potential, but the book never actually tells a story. Instead, Burke tells you what to think. The main character isn't written as complex or conflicted. She's written as an idiot. Everyone else exists mainly to judge her or bully her, and it quickly becomes repetitive and exhausting. What bothered me the most is how the book handles its themes. Instead of exploring different beliefs or lifestyles, it caricatures them. Religious faith, traditional families, and conservative Christian women in particular are treated as objects of ridicule rather than as people. You don't have to argue with those views to recognize the difference between meaningful commentary and outright mockery, and this book chooses mockery. Because of that, the plot barely works. Characters make decisions that feel unnatural, conflicts feel manufactured, and the pacing drags through long internal monologue while important events are rushed. By the time I reached the ending, I wasn't curious anymore, just relieved to be finished. I don't mind a book that challenges ideas. I actually like that, but a good story trusts readers to think for themselves. This one doesn't. It feels more interested in proving a point than telling a compelling narrative. I finished it only to see how it ended, and honestly, I wouldn't recommend it. I can't believe people are saying this is going to be the book of 2026. Totally baffled. 1 out of 5 stars, a mean-spirited caricature that misses the mark. Right out of the gate, I hated the protagonist's inner monologue. It was caustic, cynical, and just plain nasty. Honestly, this book says way more about the author than the character she's trying to portray. The author clearly has total contempt for anyone who doesn't share her values. I think it's sad. This is what the publishing industry thinks is profound. This isn't a real satire of trad wives or ultra-conservatives because the author doesn't seem to understand people who live differently than she does. I don't think she's ever had a real conversation with a devout Christian in her life. I'm saying this as someone who grew up in a high control religion and was lucky enough to get out. I know how damaging those communities can be, but this book missed the mark on the actual problems within those groups. I also understand why people, women included, would choose to stay in them. If you're going to satirize these communities, you have to actually dig into why people enjoy living in them. Ultimately, this didn't work for me because it feels like a satire of what the author imagines conservative women think about liberals like her. The reality is most ultra-conservative women, unless they're professional agitators like Phyllis Schlafly, don't really think about liberal women that much, if at all. I've never met anyone in real life who thinks or acts like the people in this book. It's a satire of something that doesn't exist. It feels like the author created a fake scenario just to argue with criticisms that only the most deranged people online are actually making. Just to add this in, have you met everybody in the world? Have you talked to every single conservative woman? I don't think so. So maybe people that you associated with when you were in a high control religion weren't like this, but that does not mean that there are no conservative women like this. And I would argue that there are some who are just like this and who do have a lot of these same thoughts. And there are numerous reasons why people end up in these religions. Sometimes they're born into it, therefore they can't escape until they're older and have the means to do so. And then there's other various things that make people susceptible to joining these. So no, she didn't cover every facet, but to say that this does not exist because you haven't personally experienced that, that's disingenuous. Luckily for Burke, most conservative women aren't as cruel or condescending to her as she is to them. If the author truly believes this is how they think, then Natalie Heller Mills' take on the angry woman in her comment section is spot on. Obviously, I'm a black person, but I know that black churchy women are mean and judgmental. So I'm assuming the same for white conservative women. Most conservative women I know are just trying to live by their values and raise their kids in a practical, nurturing way. Sure. Once a husband earns over a certain amount, a traditional family structure is just a practical way to run a household, not some malicious or any way deliberate psyop to hold women back. For this book to be any good, the author should have spent time talking to regular conservative women, not just watched influencers. But the book is about an influencer. She could have even just looked at how they talk about their lives on Twitter. A lot of them actually think the trad wife influencer is a weird, immodest trend that makes a mockery of their actual lives and values. Bottom line, the author basically created an ugly caricature just to torture her for 300 pages and prove her own superiority. Feels like if she's punishing a fictional character in a way she wishes she could do in real life, it makes for a pretty sad, ugly book. It's crazy. It's valid to say that this is not how everyone who considers himself a conservative woman acts, that some of them truly are happy in what they're doing and they are just minding their business, taking care of their children and baking their bread. Yeah, but there are also people who exist like this. And again, this is about the influencer. So that's why, of course okay, all right. I felt offended for Christian tradwives reading this book because the author did not try to give us any depth about Natalie's motivations and aspirations. She's a hateful caricature, a mentally disturbed woman who doesn't seem to be invested in anything around her and does not seem to actually uphold any, much less Christian ideals. What I expected from the book plot-wise was also very different from reality, since we get very little of her prairie life compared to the flashbacks to her modern life, which are just not compelling. What unfolded at the end just made me feel disgusted and absolute disappointment. Look, every book is not for every person, right? But I just found it so funny how so many of these reviews are upset at the portrayal of Christianity in the book. And I think all what she did was all deliberate. And for everyone to say that the caricature or the incorrect interpretations of the Bible, it being blasphemous. Okay, as if people take the Bible as literally God wrote this, when it was compiled by multiple people who heard from somebody, and then it's been translated however many times, okay? But people still are like, oh, this thing is law. And then somebody over here interprets this as this, and somebody over here interprets that as that. And that's just within the religion, okay? That's not even people outside of it. So spare me with that. And people use and abuse religion, particularly Christianity we're talking about in this one, which technically Mormonism does fall under Christianity, although they be doing their own thing with their Mormon Bible and their, I just forgot his name, their prophets, whatever. But let's not pretend as if the religion itself doesn't do these misinterpretations and their own blasphemy and the way that they treat people in the name of religion, the way they treat women in the name of religion, that women are supposed to be less than, supposed to be subservient. The man is the head of the household. She is from his rib, blah, blah, blah. Women are the reason that we have sin on this earth because we're just so terrible. So I just find it funny for you to be mad about that part. Pacing, you don't like the writing style, like it just didn't intrigue you as a story, whatever. But to say that you think that the author has no experience or any research on the scripture and made some of the scriptures, like I don't remember what they are. I'm not, again, a biblical scholar to be like, that's not what that said. But then also some scriptures vary depending on what version of the Bible that you're reading. So I just thought it was funny. I just thought it was funny and I wanted to share. Is there alcohol in this or do I just feel buzzy on my own? It's vegan and gluten-free. I know that's right. Anyway, I can't wait to hear more people talk about this book, and I think it will make a really great adaptation. And you can be butthurt all you want if you think your religion is being misinterpreted, but think about how your religion presents itself. And how it uses and abuses people in the name of your God. How would you think about that? That's gonna be all for me. Thanks for watching. Stay blessed, hydrated, moisturized, and sunscreen. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.